Hi, Mira Gill. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Chris. It's nice to meet you.
Demetra, hi.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm Susan.
Okay. So welcome everyone to the trustees meeting for September 5th, joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. And we'll start with, we're going to take things a little bit out of order. We'll start, is there any correspondence, Sam?
Yes. We received a check from Skinner for $1,062 for the sale of the bust,
So,
Oh, great.
and that was deposited in the,
the gift account.
okay, thank you.
Lovely.
Okay. So then we'll move on to the joint participation with the selectmen, the public input. So as everyone knows, we've been working on the library project. We were awarded the grant in July for $5.8 million. The library has been working with PMBC on updates for the building plan. The selectmen had a bunch of questions that we asked. I don't know if you want to go through them or how you wanted to present it. We have new schematic designs. They've been in the library and they're in the back of the room now for anyone who wants to see. We have a new cost estimate for the building. The current estimate is $14.5 million, which also includes the addition. One addition from the original estimate was the fire road, which is about $125,000, which was not in the original. We're expecting a final estimate after the warrant goes to print, but before town meeting. We should have an up-to-date estimate from the architect. Steve Moore, who's actually sitting back here, has been wonderful in keeping the meetings. We're meeting about every other week with the architect and the OPM to nail things down, and he's been a wonderful asset to keep things moving. So we'd like to figure out how we need to figure out the financing schemes for this and how we're moving forward on the library in general. So.
Sure, thank you. I really am, here obviously to facilitate in any way that I can. The Board of Selectmen wanted the opportunity to meet with the trustees on the subject of this project, and I think first and foremost, thank you very much for the time that was put into answering the questions that we had. We very much appreciate that. And I would just say to the board, if there are any other additional questions, any specific topics we'd like to talk through, and any further requests that we may have, perhaps.
Can I say, for the general public, the questions you asked will be up on the FAQ site for the library, hopefully in the next couple of days.
Yep.
So the questions and answers will be up on the building site. So.
Maybe just before we get into the point you raised, Nina, it might be helpful for the audience in general to summarize what the substance was of the questions and answers, what the topics were.
So the questions are about when we're getting the estimate, which we have. If there's any, we're planning the library will have no additional staffing needs, even though it's going to be larger. A two-floor library will be easier to staff, and the layout will be more conducive to staffing. There's questions about MBLC. MBLC doesn't mandate any circulation level. The cost to install and operate new technology. In the cost estimate is the plans for exactly how much all the technology will be. We are planning on building a building to the LEED certification. I don't remember what level it is, but we'll get the plans we have. The current estimate is for a LEED certified building, which will give us an additional grant money from the state in the tune of
about $100,000.
Yes, so $100-ish thousand. We at our meeting last week, there was talk. We met and decided how the HVAC system was going to work, so we have cost estimates for that now too. We can't compare it to the current building because we don't know what our usage is in the current, but the system we went with is heavier on electricity than gas, so if we put a solar array on it, we'll be even more efficient and get extra LEED points. There's questions about parking. Most of the parking, additional parking and work will be, additional parking spaces will be basically created by the tennis courts. We're hoping to disturb as little of the site as we have, this current footprint as we have to. We're working on getting a CM at risk for the construction plans, which will help keep a lot of that at bay. There's talk about the fire road. So the fire department wants us to have a rear, is requiring us to have a rear access road. There is a path down there now, but it's not capable of supporting the weight of the fire truck. So we have to bring that up to the fire department's code. So that's the additional cost. It would be nice, it's not part of our project, but in general, it would be nice to light the path between Russell Street and Shattuck Street and to the library in general. It's fairly high traffic by kids after school and people in the evening. It's not part of our project, but we'd love to see it done. And then the other question is about what to do with our vacated space, and there's a space needs group that's looking at that, I believe now, so we're supporting whatever they come up with. Other groups, so there's the general issue of the ADA for the building, but they will probably have less ADA issues than we have, because one of the ADA issues we have that isn't solvable is basically because we need more space to be ADA. The only other ADA issue I know for the building is the elevator itself, so that will have to be, I assume that will come up in whatever the space needs study says, so. So that was a summary of your questions, real quickly. So.
Mark, can I ask you a couple other questions that had occurred to me in the intervening time since we prepared these? Given the LEED certification, building standards, so on, what do we expect the lifetime of this building to be? And it's probably been answered someplace, and I just haven't looked at the right place.
50 years.
It's got to be 50 years.
50 years is the design expectation? Okay.
That's the minimum required by MDLC
Okay.
and LDC.
What does that actually mean? What's the basis of a 50-year building?
You got to ask the designer.
Okay. The other question that I had was, you talked about staffing, but one thing that wasn't answered was expectations for changing the library hours. I presume if the expectation is to maintain the same staffing, you would plan to maintain the same, at least number of open hours, maybe they shift around.
So I've actually been examining that over the last couple months. I don't anticipate opening more hours, but we might shift hours
Okay.
to maybe earlier. Right now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we open at 1, but we have people who come to the building at like 11, thinking we're open. So maybe we'll open earlier on Tuesday and close earlier. Not stay open until 9, maybe close at 7 or 8, something like that.
So if we wanted to open additional hours, that would require an additional budget. We have talked about doing things like that. We've talked about like doing fundraising to support Sunday hours, for example, or things like that. It's not in the current plan, one step at a time, but
Sure.
we'd love to be open more hours if you can find the money for it.
No, listen, the way I see it is that the argument is that there's unrealized demand for use of the library, right? That's part of why we're pursuing a new library. And so the good problem that we could create with this is that a more usable library creates more demand. And if there's more demand, down the road, we may need additional staffing to support that realized demand. Any information from other communities about how a new library has changed circulation rates, has changed
all
participation rates?
From what I've heard, it's all increased.
It's all
Yeah,
increased.
from other directors I've spoken to that built new libraries, from our architect, about 75% of the work they do is new libraries for this project. They all say it increases.
Okay. Do you, any sense for order of magnitude of those increase, 1%, 5%, 10%?
It's doubled. That's what I've heard.
So part of the way we handle extra demand is like we have the self-checkout machines and things like that. And in the new library, there's a plan of like being able to pick up your own holds and things like that. So we'll try and, manage the staffing as we need to and utilize them as appropriate, so.
Can we say something? One of the biggest things about this new library is having the public use it without staff there at many, many more hours than we have now.
Meeting rooms, a lot of the reason that people want, it's crazy how many people need meeting rooms, but we're hoping that there will be 4 available rooms that can be used when we're not open. So we could conceivably close an hour earlier, but people who want meeting rooms would have opportunities to meet there. 4 opportunities. Right now, there's only the Cooper room.
Sure. So even an increase in usage wouldn't necessarily correlate with an immediate increase in staff?
No.
No.
We would welcome more staff.
Oh.
And listen, as I said, I would consider that to be a good problem to have.
Yes.
So we have asked for a few additional hours over the past several budget cycles, and that was basically to restore us to what it was before the recession hit and we cut staff hours. So we'd like to get back to where we were before. In the new building with an additional load, we might need those additional hours even more than we do now, right? But, so.
And a demonstrated increase in foot traffic certainly helps to justify that, too.
So I actually have, so for those, Sam and I went over these numbers real quick before we came down here. So last year, the library circulated about 138,000 items, and we had 98,500 people come through the library, roughly. So, so if we double that, that will be quite an amazing number for a town our size. So.
And needless to say, 98,000 is obviously repeat customers. We don't have a population size.
No,
People come from everywhere.
So if everyone wore a little RFID, we could track how many. I think the number's like 80-some% of the town residents have library cards.
Right.
I don't know what percentage of them are active or how we measure that, but.
I think the last time I checked, there was 6,000 or 7,000 active library card holders.
So that would be in the 60-70% range. So.
Can I ask what's, and I should know because there's been enough studies lately that I just can't remember the projection over the next 10 years for the population of the town. What's that looking like?
The data is that over the next few years, it should increase somewhat, but then actually stabilize for the next 10 to 20 years thereafter. Probably in the, doing this off the top of my head, but I think it's in the 10 to 11,000 range. With a significant demographic shift within that number, but we're at the tail end, at least of what the demographics folks have modeled for us. We're at the tail end of the increasing population and are approaching something resembling a pseudo-steady state.
Okay. So that's what, like maybe a couple of thousand more, isn't it?
It's somewhat less than 1,000 more to
We're
have.
close to 10, if not at 10 now.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were over.
It depends on who you ask.
Right.
And we've been stalled there for a long time, just under 10.
One of the hallmarks of the demographic shift, though, will be sort of a bimodal distribution where the expectation is that there will be a fairly robust population of folks in the 25 to 45 range and a robust population of folks in the 65 and older range, but actually a lower number of people in between there, relatively speaking.
We serve everyone equally.
Oh, yes, you still got
Am I still going? Yeah. One other question, if you would indulge me, with respect to the parking. I know we've talked about going with the CM at risk and the ability to utilize that to help manage traffic flow during construction, because we could sort of plan that ahead of time. Any progress on understanding what that might look like, understanding we haven't actually hired someone yet?
The OIG approved the CM at risk model on Monday.
Okay,
Vertex submitted the language to get the advertisement into Central Register today. That will run next Wednesday. And the next week, we'll put together the RFQ language, and that's where we are at this point.
okay. So, very much moving along. And with respect to parking, do we have any sense right now of the short-term impacts during construction of what this might look like around here in terms of access?
I don't
Not
think,
until we get the CM at risk on board, and we can work with them, tell them what is off limits.
Okay,
The good thing about a CM at risk is that you have much more control over, well, over them as opposed to a low bid, where the low bid comes in and says, well, we thought we had the whole parking lot. So, we'll work very closely with them on traffic flow and laydown.
okay.
we're trying, I think the goal is to keep it as isolated to, behind the tennis court area as we possibly can, but how much of that is realistic, we don't know yet. So, I think the plan at the moment is to start construction somewhere in the spring, effectively.
Right, I think construction documents are scheduled to be completed in April, early May. And then with the CM at risk on board, we can go right into construction.
Sure. I'll leap into what I think is a important topic we ought to get into, and that's the financing of the project. I've been a supporter of the library, not knowing what direction the finances would go in, but I was also an advocate for looking into the possibilities of funding it under the levy limit. So at this juncture, I'm happy and appreciate the work you folks did bringing the estimates to a pretty reliable, I would say, fine point, so that it's not a moving target anymore. And I also appreciate the work of our finance team, kind of corroborating some of the work Anthony and Saldi and myself did last winter. With using Steve Venuti's always valuable database and input to kind of corroborate that indeed we can fund this under the levy limit, and which raises the question. The next question is, should we? And I have a personal position, but I think it's got some general support that debt under the levy limit is precisely there to fund projects that enjoy overwhelming support or are part of our base mission. And the decision of whether or not to do it under the levy limit really comes down to, has that been demonstrated? Is it possible financial? And also you should be doing it in consideration of other projects in the pipeline. And using the most conservative of models, and I would say that that's what we use, and that is contestable, but certainly that's not the purpose of tonight. Even using the most conservative models, we can do this, and I also believe that we can do that and still satisfy important project in the pipeline, serving the senior citizens, because of a reality that if we opt on that sooner rather than later, because of the options that have been considered, it's likely to be on the cheaper end of a wide spectrum of projected costs. And if we decide to go for a more expensive one, that's likely to be a year or two away, which gives us time to both build debt capacity as well as actual funds in dedicated accounts along the way. Okay, all that aside, or with that as background, it's going to come upon us, selectmen with the Finance Committee, in conversation, well, what do we recommend to the town? I would say, though, at this point, you folks have done your primary responsibility of advocating for the library, but I would suggest that it shouldn't be limited to that. You're citizens of the town, too. You're all elected officials, and I would think it's valuable as we enter into that discussion to hear from you on that subject. So, where I'm coming from is no mystery, but I'd like to hear where the library trustees are coming from.
Anyone want to start with that?
Well, first off, we've been working on trying to get a new library for 10 years and very intensely, actively pursuing it for the last 5. We went through all the requirements of filling out our grant application. We fundraised over $700,000.
It's,
Where are we now?
We're about 666,
Okay,
665, somewhere in there,
665.
so close to 7.
Close to 7.
So I have some statistics for you. At the last town meeting, there were 538 people that voted for the library. We had 82%, which is well more than our 2/3 vote. We have the capital campaign that was started in the spring, I believe, has 288 donors in town and has raised $258,000. We have, close to $700,000 we've raised to offset this. We are going through every hoop we can to find money to offset this for the town. So far, the town has, everything that we've got has been borrowed money, effectively. We had the $1.5 million that was approved. We haven't taken any money from capital accounts, right? There's been several projects funded recently inside the levy, and there's others that are coming down the pike that have money reserved inside the levy too. I just ask that we're on equal footing with all those projects. We've done everything that has been asked of us to fund this, to try and raise funds to make it as affordable to do inside the levy as we can. We haven't even, we have the $600-some thousand. We haven't even went after the large donors yet, that we're going to start targeting now. So, you know who you are.
I just wanted to add that the trustees have already put up $100,000 towards getting the design effort going prior to Springtown meeting. So we didn't have to wait for Springtown meeting to get that money.
And like Demetria said, we've been working on this for a while. And the mood in town has kind of changed since we started on this. Several people have actually come up to me and said, when we started this project at the grant stage, I wasn't for the project, but you guys have done your homework, you've done a good job, and I'm with you now. One of our biggest proponents is now a donor to our building fund, right? And we'll, so we've done everything we've asked. We're hoping that this can go inside the levy, or as, with as minimal impact to the taxpayer as possible. But we don't control those purses, so.
No, but I think your recommendation would, is something that would be helpful to our deliberations. People are gonna wanna know, what do they want? What are they asking for?
So, yes,
That's where
so,
we stand.
We're going to continue to fundraise as we go forward. I mean, we have other,
the
plans.
the library is also in a different position than some of the other projects in that it doesn't have to be bonded right away. So you have more time to figure out, the finances can change drastically, probably for the better on some of this. There'll be more debt retired before you actually have to bond the library, right?
Is that because of the?
So the way the grant is paid over 5 years, so if I understand correctly, we can short-term for those 5 years before we have to go to a bond. So you're effectively paying the library over the 25 years rather than, but we can, instead of bonding the whole cost, you'll have the grant money to lower how much debt service you're actually paying. So
In years 1 through 5? Is that what you-
In 1 through 5, you'll do a short term for the whole amount. But when you actually go long-term, it will be for the amount that's reduced by the grant.
Sure, right, fully offset by the value.
And by the fundraising, right? So the fundraising, we're still targeting $1 million. Even if we had hit the $1 million target, we won't have that $1 million for October because people pledged it over 4 years. So there'll be still some coming in late, but, we fully expect we can hit the $1 million.
I certainly don't dispute what you're saying, but can I ask through the chairs, whether, since I think Steve is here,
Yep.
whether he might opine on that? Steve Venuti, does that ring true to your ears? He is here.
He's way in the back.
Way in the back.
Which part are we talking about?
The 5 year before having to go to bond part and the.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Okay. I wasn't looking for a full endorsement of my view of the financial world.
The library also occupies what was once the Shattuck Street School, and they've been in that building for 33 years. And you think about, well, what were the needs of the Littleton community 33 years ago? Are they the same needs of today? And what are the needs going to be 20 years from now? Remaining in that building with the state that it's in, how long can it really sustain what we need in terms of ADA compliance and safety, education for our youth, education for our seniors, the growing population of our town, the technological advancements that we are making, and with computers and what we're able to do today with schools and jobs and networking and again, the meeting space. I mean, people use the library for many different reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with checking out books. And there should be space in the town where communities can meet and gather and get to know one another. It really, the building is going to be a service for everyone. It will be a benefit for everyone in the community.
You'll see people sitting outside of the library using the Wi-Fi when we're not open. The new library, the shelves, we're working on making them more portable so that things can be rearranged as necessary, and planning, if books go out of favor in favor of, audio or Kindles or things, we're ready to adapt. Steve?
Talking to the point of using the library for other activities, you and I spoke earlier, and I was asked a question earlier, so I thought I'd bring it up, but you can use the library for fee-based learning?
So the trustees have a policy that says the library is not to be used for profit organizations. That is a policy of the board. If someone comes to the board and wants an exception to that policy, they can come and ask for something. The same policy doesn't apply to town organizations. Park and Rec and the Council on Aging use our rooms now for programs that they charge a fee for. And that's perfectly acceptable. The point was to prevent businesses from running their business out of the library. We have people that come in and do tutoring out of the library. We allow them to do tutoring in the library, even if they're being paid. We just don't allow them to reserve the room for the tutoring. So we have those fine lines on some of these things. It's not an MBLC policy. It's a policy of the board. Even in the new library, we're in control of the policy. This MBLC doesn't care. So.
Okay, thanks.
And if anyone wants to use it for something else, they're welcome to come to one of our meetings and ask. And the time that I've been on the board, no one's come to ask, so.
Do you have any other questions? No. So I had a couple of questions. I do need to commend the library trustees and their efforts to promote and gain community support for this project. You really have done an amazing job. Your fundraising efforts are just, I'm very, very impressed. I did have a couple questions just regarding the information that was recently provided to us. For the project costs of 14.5 million, is that the total cost of the project, or does that not include like ineligible costs? Like what, are there any costs that are not included
That's the
in
total
that
cost.
figure?
I believe that's the total cost
It's
of
the
the
total
project.
cost?
That
Okay.
includes the $1.5 million that was already allocated.
It does include it, okay.
So, yes.
And if I can follow up
Sure.
that for specificity, the contingency is part of that 14.5, we're not talking about 14.5 plus a
There's a-
additional contingency.
It's all in.
It's all in.
And that 14.5 also includes, at this point, about a 9% design contingency, which is a little on the high side.
Okay.
So we have some cushion there.
And it includes construction escalation costs for next year too, I think, so. It should be all in. We're hoping that number doesn't go up. We're going to do our best to make sure that number doesn't go up, but
Okay. I was just looking at the original eligible and non-eligible costs summary that was provided in the grant application and just comparing it to this. It didn't look like it was apples for apples, but I'm sure, I trust that everything's been incorporated with it. I just wanted to double check on that. And then as far as my other question just pertained, just to one comment in the selectmen's questions was the site improvements, parking, landscaping, walkways for the 426,000. Is there any paving included in that number as well, or paving costs?
I believe there is some paving in that. There's the paving for that little parking area there, and then there's a handicap trail that goes from the front of the building to the back, winds around, and that will be paved because it has to be for the ADA accessibility. So
Because it looked, on the site parking plan, there's a bunch of spaces that are gonna be added in front of.
that's not part of that. So I believe all of the rest of the parking that was in the grant application,
Yeah.
they're suggesting restriping this lot, and I don't think that's part of our plan. It's just that area, just restriping by the tennis courts.
Right, but what about creating the additional parking spaces all along?
I don't think that's that's not part of that estimate or part of the plan per se. There's also a couple other things that probably need to be generally done to this campus that aren't part of the plan, like if the library is back there, the entrance over by the tennis courts probably needs to be improved to make it wider and more visibility, straighten it out and things like that. That is not part of our plan, but that's a general thing, general site improvement that should probably be done, right? But it's not part of the scope of this project.
Of this project. So the site plan that was provided with the grant application that showed the increase of 129 spaces from 129 to, I think it's 148, it's a little hard to read. That's not on the table anymore? Those additional spaces aren't going to be created?
We do have
needed 26 additional spaces.
We added additional spaces back by the tennis courts that aren't
Okay.
really there now.
Right, so that,
But there's no additional spaces that we're striping elsewhere.
okay. So,
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. So there are, my understanding is there are additional spaces
Yes.
that will be added
Yes.
over by the parking lot.
Over by the
Or
tennis
over
courts.
by the tennis courts.
Right. So our architect, when they went through the original plan, said, you can be more efficient in the use of the current lot, and they came up with more spaces on how to use the current lot. Those are not part of the 14.5, right? Anything outside of the area by the tennis courts is not part of
It's not
the
part
scope
of
of our
that.
project.
But
Right.
even that is simply a realignment of,
Mostly, yeah, I think.
Restriping essentially?
just restriping, it's not adding
I don't,
impervious surface.
yeah, I don't think so.
so how many parking spaces so we're adding 13
Yeah,
to
there's-
what the existing number we have now?
I could be, I'm not sure the exact number, but yes.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking this, my main reason for asking this, is the number of, the amount of activity that currently takes place on this campus as it is. You know, as Sam mentioned, you're expecting circulation to double. That's double the number of visitors to the library. The library's moving from this end of the campus to this end by the Council on Aging. The Council on Aging, on average, has 45 visitors a day. And I'm just concerned about there being sufficient parking, adequate parking for the seniors to be able to park and access the Council on Aging and Elder and Human Services, the Human Services part of that department as well. I just want to make sure this, with the town employees, the visitors
Yeah.
to.
So there
to
probably
hear,
should be a general, as part of the space needs for this building, there should probably be more of a look at the parking. Like, could you get some parking out on Shattuck Street or somewhere else, you know, out there too?
Mark, I was talking to one of the seniors yesterday. She indicated that most of the programs take place in the morning. So I don't know when most of your visitors to the library come. And
Yeah, so
there might need to be a study there as to, you know, when the parking lot is used the most.
I don't think there's a lot of crossover.
Okay.
A lot of our programs take place later in the day. A lot of COA's programs take place earlier in the day. So
Right.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of.
In fact, what are your hours during the week? So you don't open any earlier than 10, right?
No, we open at 10.
10 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays and Saturdays. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, right now it's 1.
I think they have, COA obviously has lunch events, but you're saying that your events are not typically until later in the day,
Yeah,
3, 4 type of thing.
After
Yeah,
school.
even if we do have them during the day, they're not during lunch. That's, the COA probably use, that's the most people generally that you see over there is lunch, but we don't have lunch programs.
And not to speak for the EHS director or the COA, but I imagine that they're looking to certainly expand their programs. Obviously, I think they find that their space is restrictive, and as a result, they have some constraints, but the goal is for them to expand their programs, and I've heard on a number of accounts, people talking about programs much later in the day. But you all know the programs we've had much better than I do. I'm too new to tell you where the programs are today.
Also, I think the additional meeting spaces in the library will allow for other departments like COA and Park and Rec to use those spaces. So it's not like we'll be in.
All right, so the additional spaces are being created in front of behind the tennis courts, but nothing on this side of the campus, on the
There's nothing,
library
no.
side? Okay.
But we did talk to Littleton Electric, and they will move the charger once there's a new library.
Perfect. Okay. And,
Can we
So no
recommend the
cost.
Space Needs Committee take a look at some of is that something that we can do?
Yeah,
Because that feels like a legitimate, if the Space Needs Committee can take a look at perhaps that, the configuration. and
there
how
seems
that
like
might
there's, could be a lot more,
efficient.
like adding spaces out front, for example, could
yeah,
alleviate a
depending,
lot.
right, so right now the space needs, part of the charge is evaluating this building as a whole, just to see what can be done. As you have pointed out, it didn't meet the needs of the library, so it's gonna take a little bit maybe to see what other needs it meets for other departments, for all the reasons that you couldn't utilize the space anymore. And just the building as a whole, it is an older building, so we'll see what comes of that. Until we really know what's gonna happen with the building, I don't know that we need to really dive into the parking on that side. I just was looking at the plan that you have provided, and there's a lot of site work involved with adding parking spaces to that side of the building, so that's why I was just curious whether that was actually gonna happen or not.
It's not part of the current scope, no.
Okay. All right. Great, thanks.
We'll open up if there's anyone in public that wants to ask questions of the trustees, or
Yeah,
just
we're right here.
state your name and
Dina Flockhart, 61 Gilson. Instead of moving the electric car charging station, why not add a second one?
we can ask Littleton Electric about that too. They have those chargers are expensive, and they have a fixed number that they can put in per year based on that, I think, so we'll work with them on that. So it's very well used right now, I can tell you.
That's why I was suggesting a second one might be a good option.
So. Any other comments, Phil?
Yolanta Davis, 32 Shaker Lane. Just a general comment about public support and possibly funding the project within the levy. I plead to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee if you could please consider that. Because I personally am a supporter. I have been donating $20 a month since mid-2017. Hopefully that will lower taxes for somebody. But I know that there are people who maybe it will be difficult for them if the taxes go up. So if it's at all possible to fund it within the levy, please consider that.
Anyone else?
Janine Wood, 12 Christina Street. I feel like this is kind of common sense, but I wanted to put out there in words, as we were talking, it sounds like there's going to be kind of two groups here on this campus. There's going to be the library, and then there's going to be the building that's left. And as the library is built, perhaps one person that would coordinate the campus so that we don't get like a half paved place here and a half paved place there, because as we're talking, it sounds like there are disparate things going on, and you know, maybe one project manager for the campus as that happens might be something that would smooth the way.
Sounds like a great job for the assistant town administrator.
To your point, that's actually precisely why I think Steve and the library trustees recommended going with the contracting approach that we're going with, because it gives us a little more flexibility to dictate what it is we want and what it is we need to maximize the utility of the existing space while the library is under construction, rather than allow a bidder to dictate it to us.
And Cindy and Chuck, who's not here, are representing our board, you know, in that oversight process, so it is occurring,
Cool.
the big picture view of things.
Right, thanks.
And that also, you know, your comment makes me think of one other aspect, which is coordinating programs, you know, and how those we talked about it a moment ago, but, and Sam and other departments have talked about coordinating programs, but there may need to be a conversation on a frequent, what the frequency is, I'm not sure, but discussion about coordination of programs so that we can try to minimize if any parking impacts become identified, you know, that's something that the department heads can get together on and perform.
There's several things on the coordination that the departments can all do better, like schedules, you know, notifying of event schedules, right, keeping them apprised, cross-promotion of events, you know, scheduling like programs, you know, to have themes and things like that. That's a general thing that should be, we're working to make happen across. We do some things with COA now and Park and Rec, and like we share the movie license and things with them and try and do cross promotions. So, but there's obviously a lot more that could be done. So.
Hi, Megan Ring, 6 Green Needles. I also ask that our Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee consider funding this within the levy. The library is quite simply for everybody at whatever stage of life they might be. It might be a stay-at-home parent that needs a non-expense, a free activity on a long winter's day. It might be a parent that's out of work that needs a quiet place to look for a job. It might be a senior citizen that needs to go look at a newspaper. It's something for everybody, and I think asking people to pay higher taxes when we have the ability to fund it in our levy, when it's something that's been shown to be so heavily supported in this town, I think we owe it to our citizens to fund this within the levy so that we can get our library, because we really need it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So, Karen Morrison, 11 Spruce Street. And I'm going to give the perspective of somebody who just arrived here in May with my 3 children. And literally our first stop in town was the library. I came in with the 3 kids, and we made our way through the little maze and eventually found our way to the children's room. And I just wanted to thank the Board of Trustees, because one of the first things we saw on our way into the library was the fundraising sign. And it is such a positive impression. It's really encouraging for us to see, this charming building with really friendly faces, and we've used the library in more ways than I can count already. But also to see that there's a plan for the future, and that everyone's got growth in mind, and that this is a community that's forward-thinking, made us feel really good about our decision to invest in Littleton. We plan to be here until, forever. We've moved a lot, and this is our plan for our final move, and this is where we've brought our 3 children to raise them, and it created a fabulous impression, so thank you. And yeah, I'm gathering there's a question of whether we do this within the current tax rate, or whether we, if it's possible, I can't think of a better investment for a community than this, from our perspective. One interesting thing as a parent of young children is seeing that the schools heavily rely on textbooks that are online. And one of my immediate thoughts was, wow, we don't have that many different desktops and laptops and tablets for all 3 of our kids to be accessing those computers at the same time to look at their textbooks when that time comes. And the library would be a place that we would rely on to hopefully be able to access technology. So I think as the schools are continuing to rely on technology and increasing that, a new library is really going to be helpful for those of us with school-age children to be able to augment what we have at home for them to be able to get their schoolwork done. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to town.
Thank you for your kind words. Welcome.
Jean Bracken, King Street. I just want to urge, I'm blown away by everything that you folks have done. I've been a library user for almost 50 years and have found it really a center of the community for me. I cannot urge our elected officials enough to get behind this, to get up at town meeting and say that you approve this. The bottom line is, if we don't pass it now, we will lose $5 million, which is not going to come back anytime soon, and we'll still need a new library.
And it will be a lot more money the next time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm
Christine Brown. I live on Griffith Mill Road, and we've lived here 5 years, but when we, in New Jersey, we built a new library, and there's a lot of grumbling about it, and then we had Hurricane Sandy, and that library was the heart of our community. We had no showers, no electricity for 14 days. We lived at the library, and after that event, they didn't have to fundraise. We just brought them money because. So I love the library. It's not just books.
So we're not planning on putting showers in the library?
Hurricane.
Say never.
We did open the library during the heat wave. The staff was wonderful. I think you asked on a Friday for people to come in on Sunday, and we had plenty of staff volunteers to come in on a Sunday, so we were here opening for the heat wave. So
And so a lot of people came in and thanked us. Even people who didn't come in called us and thanked us. They said, well, I'm okay at home, but I want to thank you for being open.
and I think you guys ended up with too many cookies from that.
That's right. Somebody brought us cookies to thank us.
Is there someone else? Yeah.
Dina Flockhart, Gilson Road. As the parent of teenagers, the library is a wonderfully safe place for my teenager to run away to. And they can stay away for several hours and come back when they feel more normal. And so, funding it within the levy will create, much less resentment and resistance, if we can possibly do that. But yeah, it's a safe place and a refuge for all kinds of folks. But I know my daughter and several of her cohorts, that's where they go.
To go along with the teenage that just was brought up, working the other day in the library, we had probably 8 young adults in the young adult area. And if you've been in the library, you know what that is. It's right next to where the computers are. So we had an adult patron using the computers and came up and made a complaint because there was 8 young adults over there talking. They weren't being loud, but they were talking. And we went over and said, okay. So we went over and we said to the young adults, you know, it's good that you talk, just kind of keep it down a little bit, okay? And it went on, and this adult patron came up, upset again. And finally I said, well, you know, it is their area, it's the young adult area, we expect them to talk, and they're trying their best to keep it down. So we advised that we had laptops, you could take the laptops, you could go downstairs where it's a little bit quieter to do your work. But they got upset and left because they thought that that computer area should be quiet for them to do their work. But the YA is right there. And we feel that the YA should be able to come in and socialize. We want them talking, for God's sakes, and getting off their screens. So this is our battle every day with our space needs in the library. For once, we had a full YA room. Do you see that, people? A full YA room. And they're getting put down because they're talking.
I think I have an extra set of noise-canceling headphones I can donate. No, seriously, I'll go check. I think I have some.
Any,
Well, and just to piggyback on what Jean was saying, I mean, the teens themselves are invested in their space and realize they need more space and more, you know, not privacy, like, we can't keep an eye on them, but just so that other patrons are not taken aback by the fact that they're having louder than typical conversation. A Girl Scout troop redecorated the entire space. So, I mean, they're definitely invested in having a space where they can meet safely and, you know, have conversations, have fun, play games, do puzzles. And I'm sure that they would appreciate having, you know, the town support that as well, because many of them, you know, are gonna be here for quite a bit and hopefully come back and invest in the town as they get older. So.
There were 2 teams over the summer that raised over $6,000.
Yes.
Towards the project. We had 2 lemonade stands in town. One little girl who opened up her piggy bank to give us some, you know, so they're definitely invested.
I met my wife at the library, so.
This could go one way or the other.
More than a book at the library.
that's a new slogan. Yeah.
Kathy Christophic, 190 Hartwell Avenue. I would ask the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to consider funding this under the levy. It seems that we have this unique opportunity where the financial stars are lining up just right, you know, where we have this grant, and we've got a lot of fundraising and, you know, continuing fundraising. And we have the availability and the ability to fund this under the levy. It is a worthy project. It is something that, you know, is equal to any of the other projects that might be out there and needing funding from the town. And, you know, I think maybe Sam could speak to how, you know, perhaps the grant process is not guaranteed to come around very, very soon again if we give it at this time.
Yeah, so we basically just fell in right under the wire with our project. The other 18 libraries that were on the waiting list with us, it's not sure when they will get their money. We are definitely guaranteed the money, it's in the bank, but the other libraries, it might be even longer. And the process isn't even slated to start again until after 2030. that's when they expect the last library on the waiting list, on the current waiting list, to even be funded. And that's just the beginning. So we've been doing this for 5 years. So that means in 2030, we would have to apply again. It may be until 2035, 2036 that we'd be able to do this again.
So people know there's two things going on. One is there's a state bond that funds the library construction. Basically, the Littleton Library is it Sharon?
Yeah.
We max out the bond. So to do any more, the legislator has to issue a new bond. We're guaranteed the money because we're inside the bond. The legislature also says how much MBLC can spend per year on libraries, and it's 15, 20 million, something like that. So before any other library can go forward, they have to issue a new bond, and at $20 million a year, they're talking 10 years to fund the rest of the libraries on the wait list. So, yep.
Just want to mention that the Board of Selectmen has the topic of the library funding on their agenda for Monday evening. And the finance team has been working to prepare a memo that the board will be receiving in short order. And just generally speaking, that the memo, at this point, it's in draft form, and I hope that we'll be able to finalize it tonight, but will be circulated in short order. And we're going to be following what we believe to be best financial practices. And in general, I would encourage anyone to attend Monday evening's meeting. And the board hopefully will have a great discussion on that subject. And the Finance Committee will be in on that conversation, of course, as well. And we'll be sharing certainly the documentation with the Board of Library Trustees as a part of that process.
We obviously favor funding it inside the levy, but we need to know what the decision is soon so that we know how. We're going to start our public outreach campaign. That's one of the, we're going to start doing info sessions again, probably by the end of the month. So we need to know how, whether it's inside or outside, so we can tailor our message on what people need to know for, 1 vote, 2 votes, how everything's proceeding, as early as possible so that we can get this going and in the right direction and inform people on what's going on. So,
Certainly not speaking for the board when I say this, but most likely the board will have to make a decision on that by September, on or before September 23rd, based on the schedule of the timeline of the special town meeting. So to give you some sense of what that might look like, could be sooner, could be up to the 23rd.
And we are working on the language of the warrant for the project. I don't know.
I think Steve, when you said he was.
I sent it off to bond council today,
So
we should get a draft.
And I don't know when you need the final language by. But
Well, I don't have the timeline in front of me, but the preference is the 16th, when the warrant closes, but we do have a placeholder at this point. It's not like the placeholder's gonna go away. We are obviously aware that this is gonna be requested.
So we're working on that right now, so.
Thank you all.
Anyone else have any further comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Great working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I didn't have your email address, but I did have Libtrust in March. I sent them the population data that I have.
Last minute.
Thank you.
You're all welcome to stay if you want, but cool down. Thank you, thank you.
So, just to continue taking things out of order, why don't we have Bartlett and Steve, why don't we do building project updates?
Yeah, yeah.
Building project updates.
We'll move on to the next.
Yes,
So-
we're moving to a different place on the agenda.
Yeah, we're just kind of going to jump around. So, we're well on our way with the CM at risk.
We just started with Sam.
Well, we're making progress. At our last meeting, we decided what the HVAC system should be.
BRF.
Huh?
BRF, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of initials.
So is HVAC, come on.
I don't know what's up next. There's, the borings are coming up, and the
Well,
site.
we still need to do the site survey to get the meets and bounds of the property. We need to do the borings. I put that on the agenda for Monday's meeting. Our OPM was in intensive care yesterday.
Oh
He
dear.
texted me last night and called me today, so I had to do the agenda for Monday's meeting. He won't be there. But, we're going to be talking about schedule, budget, the borings, the site survey, and the status of the design itself.
Any questions?
Who's doing the site survey?
I can't remember the name of the organization, but they did it for the original OPM that was on the project. So I just can't tell you right off the top of my head.
And at some point after the survey's done, I don't know the exact order of things, but the land has to be transferred to the right ownership, right?
So once the survey is done, we'll give that to town council. Town council will go to Middlesex Recorder of Deeds, record that there, and then transfer, it will be transferred from the school department to, I'm not sure if it's the Board of Trustees or if it's the town.
I think
Is it the Board of
the wording was the
Board of
trustees.
Selectmen, I think, isn't it?
Selectmen?
It's
in the
So
it's in the
when
warrant article.
when we did the grant application, the school department declared the land excess and agreed to transfer it to the selectmen, and the selectmen granted it to the library pending all the vote approvals.
That's what it
So,
Okay.
I don't know who ends up with the full care, custody, and control, but, we have the permission to use it, whether it's under our complete control or the selectmen, I'm not really sure in that language, but we have to have it officially
Right,
plotted out
right.
for that.
I guess whoever shovels the sidewalk has care and custody.
And there was talk at one point of doing a tree survey.
Yeah, conservation wants a tree survey, not a big one, but any trees over, 10 inches in diameter or something, just to know where they are and which ones will come out and which ones will stay.
Right, okay.
Now, there's not that many of them back there. And there's a very big one that's gonna have to come out because the fire department says they can't negotiate.
It's got quite a lean to it.
Hanging over the road right now.
Okay.
Um,
So I'm interested in the LEED certification. When are we going to know what level we have, or?
Well, we'll have at least silver.
Okay.
Now, had we gone with a different HVAC system, like a chill beam, which was much more expensive, we could have gotten some additional lead points, but it didn't make any sense from a payback standpoint.
Okay.
So as we go through the design, we'll understand better where we end up. My sense is we'll just end up at a silver.
Okay.
Because to go too much further, you spend more than you're gonna get back.
Okay, that's reasonable, and I suspect somebody's going to ask that at town meeting, so, all right.
The roof is being set up so that it will support a solar array, and there are potential looking for grant funds to put in a solar array, and Littleton Electric is willing to help us on some of that.
That I remember, right.
But it's early early.
Right.
But I think the maximum grant on the solar array is $20,000, $20,000 or $40,000.
Okay.
Do you have any other?
It's not a whole lot.
Okay.
Any other building updates? So, we're meeting basically every other week.
Next Monday at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool beans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, now we'll go back towards the normal. Treasurer's report?
Treasurer's report, yes. In the MMDT, we have $4,284.49. In building part of the the building fund, okay, we have $382,511.90. And the project funds that we have out, that we've promised is $100,000.
That was already taken from that one.
Yeah,
That was-
it's already taken, but it was noted to me, so I'm noting it to you.
Okay. And there's no BART report yet?
No, but he just told me tonight it didn't come in.
Yeah.
It's too early in the month.
Yeah, it's, and holidays and all that sort of thing.
No, it's just, maybe, but it's, usually you don't see it till the 7th or 8th or 10th. Plus the holiday.
Did the money come out of the BART building fund into the MMDT? Do we know that?
Yes, yeah, we confirmed that $3,500.
I don't remember that. Could be. Okay. Okay.
There is a balance now, and have we already cut a check for expenses to toward?
I think, I know I signed the expense, I don't know if the check I cut.
Because the balance is 4284, so that's what it's coming out of, right?
Friends report?
I couldn't go to the meeting last time.
Sam's got you covered.
Hey, Sam.
Let's see. So they made $2,422 at the book sale.
2,422?
Yep. They transferred, or they're planning to transfer to the building fund from their own, from donations, $15,000 to the building
Oh, nice.
building fund. They approved $6,000 to allow us to buy new museum passes. Let's see. What else? The book sale will take place October 17th through 19th. And they're planning to do another Read Past My Bedtime event. I think that's going to take place in November.
Can't believe that's coming up again.
Yeah.
Holy
Like it
mackerel,
was-
didn't we just had
it?
They talked about third Thursdays. They attend every third Thursday and over the last 4 months. And they also discussed they wanted, when they do their taxes next year, they want to get an accountant to do that. That was a suggestion, that they do their tax returns that way now.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Fundraising and public awareness?
What is the public awareness? Well, I'm not even sure what the names of the committees are anymore. Was it public awareness or was it canvassing, or is it the same thing?
Well, we've combined
We were
them.
at that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what they call it.
I think it's that. Anyway, just, I don't have notes, but Alex Pratt came to the meeting and we were talking about having a sort of concerted canvassing effort over the next couple of months leading into the October vote. So there's some organization happening around that. Jen Wilson is
Yes.
going to do sort of an orientation to canvassing, I want to say Friday, I think it is Friday. I believe it's this Friday night, to sort of give people a little bit of a how-to.
Okay. So we're talking about 6 weeks here now?
Yeah.
Not, yeah.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And beginning fairly soon. Okay. I don't know if you have anything else to add, David. Did we pass in the night that night? Did I leave when you were coming in or something, I think, at that meeting? Was that meeting where I was leaving and you were coming late and I was leaving?
No, that was a different.
Was that? Right all.
No, you left before the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
You had to go somewhere. That was when Alex was sitting
Yes.
at the far end.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I wish Kathy Christopher had stayed because she ran that meeting.
Yeah.
so.
Are we talking about the same meeting?
No, we were definitely at that
The
meeting.
one-
You and I were
The
at that
ones
meeting.
that we're supposed to go to every month? Off.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Yeah.
you couldn't. I
I
think
couldn't
you were
make
somewhere.
it,
Yeah,
no.
and I think David and I were there.
So you have something for fundraising, public awareness, the football game.
Well, I have a couple of things on the last, we haven't got to the minutes, though, approval of minutes.
We're gonna do those last.
Oh, sugar, okay, because there's something in here that I need to change, and I have a question about something else, because I wasn't there,
So we're gonna be at the football game before.
On the
town meeting
25th.
with a
Chris
big-
and
I told you I would. I know.
you're back out.
Well, I'm going to be in DC on faculty at a writer's workshop. I didn't realize it was the same weekend. So I will not.
You
be
will
there.
be back on Monday.
I will be back on Monday.
Yes, you will,
Yeah.
okay.
I can offer up some young adults.
Oh, I'm
that might
having
help
young
you.
adults, it's
Yeah.
not a problem. You can bake for me instead.
I
No,
can, I will be.
Yeah, no, we will have,
We'll be there.
this is something that we do a lot with the Humanitarian Club, and we raise money for breast cancer in October, but we're already doing that at a different football game. So I just asked Mike if we could do this for the library. He said, great idea, let's do it. So I'll have my usual suspects, my kids and tables and baked goods, and all I'm gonna ask for is, that sort of thing to have with me.
Absolutely. That's a good idea.
And any flyers that I can have, whether we have the cards that say this is why we need this, okay? And also, Zach does the calling.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does, and he is very excited about this. And I need to have a script. I need to have some material for him to say over the loudspeaker about what's going on, because this literally is 3 days before the vote,
Okay,
okay?
we need to arrange that.
So, yeah.
So you're talking about September 25th or October?
October
Okay.
25th.
Just double checking for
So
minutes.
we'll work on getting you a script.
That would be grand.
I'm sorry. I know. I was never, as soon as I looked at that calendar, I was like, I told Susan I would be at that football game.
It's okay.
I'm
Do
never
you-
away. I'm never that far away.
Do you need people to donate baked goods?
Always.
Okay.
And what doesn't get sold on Friday night will probably show up again on Monday morning, and they'll all be gone by then. Or we'll bring them Monday night, because the National Honor Society, which I am also the advisor for, will be doing the babysitting at town meeting. So, yeah, we have a committee for it this year.
On fundraising and public awareness, there's talk, do we want to, as trustees, send out an informational card
I think that's a
about the
brilliant,
library?
a brilliant idea.
So I think the only rule then is we can't actually say vote yes, but we can have all the information about the town meeting, why we
Yeah.
need a new library, the funding and all of that, so.
4 or 5 bullets on a nice little card. Yeah,
so
not overwhelming.
Does anyone want to take the lead on
As
preparing that?
a postcard?
It can be so we can do basically the same postcard they did for the May meeting, as long as it doesn't say vote yes.
And it'd be,
It has to take those words off, but
Yeah.
You're looking at me.
I was hoping you would do it.
He is looking at you. I like that.
We have a writer in our group.
I have can't teach you to come to a
I
meeting.
know, right? Do we have the template from the May, what we did in the spring? Who did that?
Who used
Alex did it.
Alex did it?
Someone in Alex's
Oh.
did it, so.
You're not talking about this one, right? Not this one. This one says vote yes, which
Yes,
we
but
cannot put on there.
That's also
but-
way bigger than I'm thinking.
But it does have some maybe useful
Yeah,
points.
Right,
that-
but it is too busy.
Right. No, you're talking about maybe
Yeah.
something half the size?
That size or smaller, yeah.
So,
To just hand, yeah.
can I work with you on it?
Yes,
and we'll-
absolutely,
Okay.
definitely. I was just teasing, you can absolutely work.
And
So-
with our nice little, I like that
Would you like me to
building
email
logo
Alex
that's
and
on
ask
the,
him if he
Yes.
has a
yeah,
template?
that's nice.
Sure, what he said?
I'll work with you on it, we'll figure it out.
Okay, all right, that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, I just need a little.
And then we'll figure out how much it costs, and in October, we can be ready to go with the
Perfect.
printing.
Perfect.
Okay.
That would have to go out when?
Well, the
Before
meeting is
library?
October 29th, so it probably needs to be to the printer by the 15th. So,
Do we need to vote to allocate money to spend to have these printed
we
up?
can do it in our October meeting.
Okay.
We're meeting on October 3rd.
All right.
I think it would be a really good idea to have stuff maybe before then, because if canvassing is doing that, that's a good thing to hand out for canvassing.
Okay.
How fast can we make that happen? Do they have
I think he's
something?
I think they're working on something to hand out for canvassing.
So we
It'd be
can,
nice to know what that
Yeah.
is.
so we can vote money to do one
Okay,
now.
okay.
And you're gonna trust Chris and I to come up with whatever it says?
We are.
Okay.
I would definitely trust us.
Okay.
So what do you think we
All right.
need, you think? Well, I think printing and mailing is
About
probably
$1,000?
$1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're not gonna make that motion, are you?
No, I'm not. I don't get to make motions.
So I make a motion that the trustees take $1,000 out of what fund?
MMDT.
I don't, okay, fine, whatever you said. And then, and we use it to create flyers, cards.
A mailing card.
Mailing
Yeah,
card,
postcards.
okay, postcards, prior to the vote at town meeting.
I'll second. I can second, right?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on fundraising and public awareness? The next meeting is the 16th.
Fundraising?
The fundraising meeting is on the 16th.
Public awareness would include info sessions, yes?
Yes, we
No.
can.
No?
No, wait.
Sure. we can
Oh,
talk-
I'm sorry, I'm reading this
So info
wrong.
sessions.
Okay. I
So-
thought that was already on the agenda, sorry.
Right, so I would like to do at least 2 or 3 more info sessions. I think we need to know what to tell the people first, so I'm waiting on that.
Correct, yeah.
So I was thinking at least one by the end of the month, and then at least 1 or 2 in the beginning of October.
If
I don't
they-
have those dates yet.
If they're gonna give us what they're doing funding-wise by the 23rd.
We do it at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would probably be good to have that answer.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
we're
something.
gonna do 3, 4, something like we did before? Do we want the architect there? Are we trying to meet
Right,
without the architect? or-
That was, so I wanted to bring it up on Monday's meeting with the architect, see when he's available, and
Yeah.
plan for him to attend those meetings as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think end of September if we can get our act together by then, and then,
And then it's, town meeting is until October 28th, so it's
Right.
October.
right,
The 23rd of September is a Monday, and
Yeah.
so, and the 30th is on a Monday, so anywhere between.
and we
Unless we
have,
want to do it on weekend, you know, offer.
we
We
have.
did the last time, we had a number, we had like a Wednesday
We-
night
we had
and a
them
Saturday
throughout the
morning,
week,
and,
yeah.
All different times.
it was good.
Okay.
Trying to remember which ones were more widely attended.
The Wandering Prom was not widely attended.
Well, we also have a long weekend in there, and I happen to know that October is back to school. Hang on, I'll tell you when. Parent-teacher conference stuff.
But all the back-to-school things are in September. though.
Yeah.
Back to school is, but the parent conferences aren't. So we have the 23rd and 24th of October our evening parent conferences, and the 10th is at the high school in October. So those are Wednesdays and Thursdays. And we have a long weekend, and we have Yom Kippur. So, busy month.
Well,
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
okay, and
And-
we need to update the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. As soon as we know what to update it with.
And these were all held, were they? No, they weren't all held. There were some at the police station.
Yes.
There were a couple at the police station. There were some in the library. I think we tried to hold some in here. Yeah, mostly it was the police station and the library.
So the police station has no parking.
Yeah.
But we can't, it's not good to have it in the library because we can't televise it in the library.
Right.
True enough.
We need that, and we should, I mean, can we talk to LCTV and ask them to run it more often than?
Well, it's on demand anyway.
Yeah, it's
You
on
can watch
demand.
it.
Okay.
You can get it that way.
Right.
I don't think it's important that all of them are televised. I think one,
Right.
at least one of them should be. So. Okay, so you're gonna, we'll talk to Phil on Monday.
Okay.
And send out dates. And then you or I or someone will update the presentation. Okay. And at some point, we have to update the presentation for town meeting too.
Yes.
So I don't know if anyone wants to take the lead on that.
I think we should go short and sweet.
I mean, you mean update the, did you say?
The presentation for
Yeah.
town meeting, we're gonna have to
You're
come up
allowed
with that.
10 minutes. That's
Yeah,
all we
I
have.
think it needs to be short and just, I'm not even sure, I don't know. We can discuss it, but I'm not sure we even need a PowerPoint. I think.
We should just have we should have something up there with the numbers, though.
Yeah,
They
like a-
should be
like a
able to see
static
it. Yeah.
screen.
Something with the numbers and maybe a picture of.
Yeah, and
your
some
library.
compelling
Yeah, yeah.
statement, pitch,
Yes.
short.
So.
Well, that
You
new
mean-
person to town
Yeah. I think-
said she couldn't think of a better investment. And I just thought that was really nice.
Okay.
That was great. I wish I got her to her name, because that
Well,
was
that new
lovely.
lady,
I got her name.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
She's in the
She was
minutes.
just lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I don't think we should belabor
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
that presentation. I think it needs to be long. I think everybody
That's right.
No, it
knows
should
what
be-
they're
it
there
should be-
for.
It should be just factual,
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah, thank people for coming and.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of questions afterwards.
sure,
You know, that's what's going to take most time. But our presentation
yeah.
will be limited to tell us
Because we
right
don't-
ahead of
yeah,
time,
yeah.
10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on fundraising, public awareness? Okay. Trustee updates. You want to start, Susan?
No. Well, the trustees did go through, well, a couple of the trustees went through some of the old gray boxes. We spent a nice hot afternoon going through gray boxes to see if we could track down past gifts to the library.
Right.
Interesting.
And,
It wasn't terribly productive.
Actually, it was zero productive.
Correct, except I would say that it was productive in one way. We need a better system. We came up with that. And that, I think, probably we could address after town meeting.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, what were we back about? We were back about 1992.
Yeah.
Back from 1992 forward, in all of the trustees' minutes, was never a mention of a donation. Not once,
Wow.
Or,
ever.
or names were given, but not amounts.
Yeah, on a separate piece of paper, every once in a while, we'd find a list of people who made donations, but never amounts. Or was it amounts?
No, it was names.
Names.
And so, and they weren't uniform at all.
Right.
And They went from handwritten, of course, to typed and, you know. Anyway, maybe a little better system for keeping track of these things and then maybe getting them somehow scanned in so we have a.
Yeah, so maybe after the first of the year, we'll spend some time figuring out what we want to do and then figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
I know PMBC is going through and figuring out how to do organization on their records, and I'll talk to them to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because they're taking like all the old plans and quotes and things and trying to figure out how to organize them.
I mean, the reason we did this is because I am in a position of asking people for money in this ongoing fundraising, and I wanted to make sure I knew what they had given
Before.
previously.
Yeah.
So I didn't go in blind. And, well, I'm going in blind. Hello. So, anyway, that's what prompted
Somebody's
it.
working overtime.
I had one, I forgot to ask you before you left. When does the warrant go to print? So we need to have a meeting to vote to support the article before you guys go to print, so we need to know.
I'm hoping I'm gonna find this quickly. Feel free to continue the discussion. 1 second.
So you're talking about saving your documents, oh no, PMBC.
PMBC.
Yes.
Maybe should we scan ours? That's
We,
a must.
Well-
we can figure out what to do.
We can do that. It's something that I think we can do after town meeting, but it
So-
needs to be done.
So,
That was the bottom
so,
line.
Nina, what we're talking about actually affects, I don't know if it affects you, but probably affects other organizations in town. We were trying to go through some very old meeting minutes and trying to find information. And I don't know if there's been talk of like different means of archiving. I know Cindy's wants to like digitize a lot of things and figure out. So we'd like to get involved in whatever plan that is, because going through boxes of old meeting minutes is not a lot of fun and not particularly productive.
Sure,
So-
yeah, absolutely, and I think it's something that we do need to take on, and I think it's going to be something that we need to take into consideration when we look at different priorities and projects for the year and set our goals. At this point, we haven't set our goals for the year, and it certainly wouldn't preclude another department from moving forward with their own strategy, but as far as a collective effort or collective initiative to get something like that underway, I'm guessing it's, for me at least, based on what I'm seeing in terms of the work we have in front of us, it's going to be a little bit of time. And I don't know what a little bit of time means, but I'm mindful that
So
some
we're a
of
little
our
busy
space
through
needs-
October.
Some of our space needs could be potentially, at least, helped by the digitizing of records and opening up
So-
more space.
So if there's an effort going on in the town to do this, we'd like to participate.
Yeah.
We have tons of old records going back. We have ledgers back from the 1880s when they bought books. Right, so.
And I think that the best guidance I could give the board and the library director would be, you can start, there's a records retention schedule, as you're probably aware, that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts publishes. And I believe it's through the Secretary of State's office, Secretary Galvin. And that document identifies the type of record in which you're looking to potentially, now you're talking about digitizing, but there's also a possibility you may want to purge it and remove it in its entirety. You may digitize it and then purge it, I suppose, but then we need to also be mindful of the information technology demands that it puts on now taking all those files, putting them in an electronic format, the storage capacity, the retention, the backup. So these kinds of things are not typically just something that is an easy thing to implement. It takes quite an amount of time. And because of the nature of government and because we're always resource constrained, we're finding that we have our records that we've created today and since the time we started in the organization and hundreds of years ago, because other officials haven't had the time to do the same. And so these kinds of things inherently take a long time. And in going back to the Secretary of State's office and the information that they provide, if you're looking to reduce and not digitize, as an example, because there are things you want to get rid of, there's a retention schedule, it'll tell you exactly the subject. I'm sure there's something about circulation cards. Perhaps there were cards that were, the card stock that was used in the past prior to being a digital system. When those cards need to, when you can remove them from your system and shred or recycle or both as needed. And in order to go through that process, we need to submit a request to the Secretary of State's office and make a request to actually remove the documents if you're not just simply trying to move them to a digital forum. So that it's an intricate process. There's a lot of different laws and steps that we have to follow in order to go through it, and as a result, it becomes a little cumbersome. We can't just take a file and say, all right, I don't need this anymore. Into the shredder it goes.
I'm
Not
so
only do you
glad
have
we
to-
asked this question.
Well, and some records are indefinitely.
Right.
Some records are 7 years, they have 6 years, they have 3 years, they have 2
Right.
years, they have 1 year. You have to go through each and every item and topic. So while I'm sure the reasons for the law were pure, it causes a cumbersome
Yes.
workload to go through, and that's probably one of the other drivers of why hundreds of years ago we still have records that exist. And then on top of all that, I'll also tell you that the Historical Commission, and most likely the Historical Society, may be interested in anything that's very old. Usually they are interested in those types of things.
Absolutely.
So keep that in mind if you do go through
Yeah,
the process.
oh, absolutely, yeah, okay.
So, we're not talking
I
purging
never have
any-
simple answers. I
Thank you.
Go home now.
I'll be here for a while.
Oh, okay.
Are you done, Susan, with updates?
I am.
David?
I'm not the only trustee though, so,
We're going around.
okay.
It's been so long, I forgot. All right, well, no, we all have, it's been requested that we attend many of the
Oh,
meetings
gosh, yes.
between now and then.
Oh, yes, thank you for remembering that.
Between now and town meeting day, so I've selected basically all of them. Okay, so I'm gonna try and make most, and a couple of them I have to be there anyway, because I'm a member of the COA and whatever, but I'll try and make the other, I will make the other ones, I have them all on my little trustee.
I can be
Oh.
at Monday's meeting on the 9th.
So I plan to attend all of the selectmen and FinCom meetings through town meeting.
Okay.
Selectmen's are a little harder for me than the FinComs, but I will be there on Monday, and then and if I can't make any meeting, I'll let people know, so
Okay.
someone else could potentially be there.
I can probably do the 23rd.
I am going to go talk to Park and Rec at their meeting, I think, which is Tuesday. And I'm going to the COA meeting in October.
Too bad you couldn't come to the one on Monday.
Okay.
Oh,
I
well.
do have that answer for you.
Okay.
So as far as deadlines, you know the deadline for submitting an article is the 16th, but you've
Right.
already met that deadline.
Yep.
We know your project is on the horizon.
Right.
We're not gonna, there's gonna be a placeholder.
Right.
Obviously, it's gone to bond council, but you're really talking about the number to, I think, a certain extent. So ideal would be to have the information no later than September 25th, so that it can be considered in the packet preparation for the Board of Selectmen.
That's when you want the warrant language.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose that, kind of thinking this through here. The warrant language would be best sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Since it's in bond council's hands, I'm sure it's gonna get back to us probably before the 16th. But
Yep.
Right.
even if it
When
doesn't,
are the selectmen voting which ones they support?
that is scheduled for the 1st at the latest, which is a
October-
Tuesday.
October 1st?
That's right.
Okay, so we're meeting on October 3rd. Do we have to meet before then to get the printing deadline to vote?
Again, sorry.
So our next meeting is scheduled for October 3rd. So if we wanted to vote to support our article, do we have to do it before October 3rd?
Yes, it would not
Okay.
be in the town meeting report. if
So
you
you're
did it on
going to
October
print-
3rd, Because we're actually sending the report to the printer on the 3rd.
Okay.
And that would be the morning, and we'd be meeting in the evening, presumably.
Okay, we need to meet before the 3rd.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Okay.
that was my
That was the
question.
root of the question, okay.
Okay, so if we met on the 2nd, we'd be okay, but not on the 3rd.
You would be, but, yeah.
Okay,
It's tight,
thank you.
but yeah,
All right,
okay.
very good, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So,
So that we're supposed to decide something on before the 3rd?
so,
What is it we're supposed to decide?
okay, so we're getting the language for our warrant article in the next,
Week or
let's say,
so.
week. It's going to be inserted into the town warrant.
Yeah.
Right,
And we need to meet before October 3rd to
Right.
vote that we support the article.
right.
For it to say in the printout that comes to everyone that the trustees support this article.
Can I ask why we can't do that right now?
Because you don't know what the language is.
Okay.
And when she says that they're gonna decide on the 1st, does that mean they will have met on the the
Our meeting on-
30th?
Isn't the 30th Yom? Is that the
Rosh
holiday?
Hashanah.
Oh, it's Rosh Hashanah, that's why.
So they're.
Okay,
yeah.
so they're actually meeting on Tuesday, the 1st, and we would then meet the next night, the 2nd?
Or we could meet like, we don't have to have a long meeting, we just have to meet long enough to vote to support the language.
And then have a proper meeting on the 3rd?
Yeah, we could,
Okay.
we could have a 5-minute meeting to say yes.
Okay,
And we could do
on the
that.
1st?
We could do it on the 1st or
Okay.
any other day.
Okay.
So what day are they meeting? Oh, they're meeting on the 7th.
They're meeting on, it would be better if we did it before they met, right? So that we could say that
Oh, I see.
And the date is?
they're meeting on the 1st to vote what warrant articles they support.
Okay, and we need to decide by the 3rd?
We need to decide, well, we
Before
should,
that.
let's just say we're deciding before their meeting on the 1st. We could meet, if they're meeting at 6:30, we could meet at 6. Or we can meet at 6:25.
You said they're meeting on the 1st?
Yes.
It's not listed. They're listed on the 7th.
She just said they were deciding on the
Okay.
1st.
She just said the
She
1st
just
of,
said that they were deciding on the 1st of October which ones that they would be supporting.
so it might not be, yeah, okay.
So that's probably gonna change then, right? Okay.
So,
Or do you wanna,
so we can meet anytime after the language is done, so we can schedule it now, or we can just schedule it when we have the language. I don't know what people prefer.
how about if we wait till we get the language in that very day?
Well, send out a doodle.
Sure,
Okay.
let's see what we can do,
We
yeah.
have to give 3 days' notice for a meeting, right?
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
Right.
okay, so we will be meeting
Okay.
before the 3rd
Yeah.
for a extremely brief meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So I'm going to Park and Rec to talk about the project and Council on Aging. We've been in touch with the Conservation Commission. I don't know if there's any other boards that we need to go back to. We should probably show the new plans to the disability to make sure that they're still okay with it. But I don't think anything significant's changed in that. And I have no other updates. Oh, one more. I'm working on a letter to go out to large donors. So basically saying why they should support the project and send out with that blue folder. So the plan is to send them a letter in the blue folder and then follow up a week or two later with a phone call.
Okay.
So the letter is in the second draft. I will be sending out for the third draft review here, hopefully over the weekend, and
Okay.
with a plan to get it out to whoever the large donors we target somewhere next week.
Because the couple that I've already done were
Yep.
letters that I wrote to people I knew. Okay.
So,
And I need to follow up.
yep, so that's my updates.
Okay.
I have updates. It's actually a story about our library. A few weeks ago, I took my oldest daughter to the library. She's 12 and in 7th grade. She's looking for some good young adult books to read. And I just wanted to say thank you to Jenna, because Jenna walked around the whole section with her and had so many great conversations. She said, "You're going to love this book." She took it out. She had a discussion with her and got, my daughter loves to read, but got her really excited about, reading these books that she would have never thought to get herself. And she's read about, she got like 6 of them. She's read about half of them already. She's liked everyone that Jenna recommended. And Jenna asked her a lot of questions about herself, so really understood her taste as to what she liked. And so just helped her choose the best books for her. And I just really want to let you know, and please thank Jenna, and please let Jenna and the staff know that they are so valuable in the way that they help patrons, and I'm just so happy with your young adult program. And she's so happy with it. She loves it. She loved summer reading. It's so much fun for her, and I just really thank you, and please thank Jenna. She does an amazing job as a young adult librarian.
That's awesome, Demetra. And I would echo that. Actually, my daughter was the recipient of some prizes for the young adult summer reading program, and she was absolutely thrilled because it was a pile of books, which I really need in my house. More books. But it was very exciting. So she's going to share some with friends, and she's going to read some herself. So I was unfortunately not at our last meeting, but I have been at all of the third Thursdays. Over the last, have there been 4 of them?
Yeah, 4.
So that's been a lot of fun to sort of hang out with some of the friends and hang out with Sam and hang out with the big poster board and talk to people as they walk by, some of whom who are ardent supporters who just want to talk to us, and others who didn't know about the library project at all, and some new people in town. So that was a lot of fun to do that over the last couple months. So that's about it.
Another shout out for the summer reading program. That my kids loved it. One of my kids got the 100 hours, and so that was really exciting. And she was happy to see her picture on or the star on Facebook. So I just love that, and the librarians did a great job with that.
Ellen, do you have anything you want to talk? Upcoming programs?
No.
There's a security one coming up next week or a couple weeks, right? Device security.
Oh, yeah, they kind of actually contacted us. They're, the woman with the, security, for your laptop, your phone, is that what you're talking about? Yep, they're a local company from Westford, and they're gonna come, I think, on the 24th, and sit with people, show them basically how to run a virus scan, how to make sure that their information is safe, especially, I think, on their phones and their iPads. And they're doing it as just public service, free of charge.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
When is that?
That's the 24th of September.
Tuesday night. Cool.
You have anything? Or just your report?
Just my report.
Okay. And we'll move on to your report.
I'm really sorry, but I have to take off, but I will.
So I forgot to print my report, so I will send it out to you later. But, so far, my updates are so when Margaret left, that created a vacancy for a library tech. So we hired Tracy Delgado, her to the library tech position. She's been our library assistant for the past year or two, and we thought she was the best candidate out of the two staff that applied. And so that created a library assistant vacancy when she left that position. So I posted that externally, and it's been posted for the past 2 weeks. And because of some things that are going on upstairs in HR, yesterday was actually the last day, but they weren't able to get me the resumes yet. But hopefully by tomorrow I'll have them, and then I will go through them and pick the best applicants with Helen and Andy, and hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll have a new library assistant to hire. Summer reading is over. It went really well. The kids read over 4,184 tons of books. Over 2,000 attendees at our programs, about 70-something programs.
Wow.
600 plus kids registered, 100 plus teens, and 240 adults. So, that 240 was actually way over what we had last year. I think it was like 170 adults last time. Let's see. This morning we had a staff meeting, and we discussed a lot of things. The building project. We discussed looking at journals. Margaret was someone who looked at our journals a lot and helped Helen with choosing books. So we've asked the staff to really chip in with that and help Helen out with acquisitions. I also talked to them about upcoming training. So in the beginning of October, we're going to have 2 members of MVLC come and do some training. The first training will be on using our Symphony software, which is the system we use for circulation. So they're going to come here and do some training with the staff, give them some refreshers on how to use that system. And then the following week, another MVLC member will come, and she's going to teach them how to use the Libby app. I don't know if you guys know what that is. That's how you can download ebooks over Overdrive. So a lot of the staff are interested in using that and learning about it. They were actually going to hold a workshop, MVLC was, and so many of the staff wanted to attend that I just asked MVLC if they would come here and do it for us. The staff also expressed interest in holding more safety training. So I'm going to reach out to Chief Wadzinski and see if he can do like first aid and general first aid and CPR. And we have a defibrillator in the library. Nobody knows how to use it. So just training them on how to use that.
Where is it?
It's in the circ desk, underneath the circ desk. Yeah.
Huh.
And they also would ask for some reference training. Let's see what else.
The fire department has been great with the schools, and they
Yeah.
come in and train us.
Yeah.
And it's good.
Let's see. Also, MVLC helped us to create a SharePoint. SharePoint is an online site that we can use through our Microsoft server, and basically it's like sort of like a wiki or a private website that only the staff can access. So we're going to use that to post tutorials, news that's really more library related. Like in a couple of weeks, there's going to be a talking book conference so the Worcester Public Library, they have something called Talking Books, which helps the blind. It's basically like it sounds, it's a book that talks to the speaker system. So they're going to hold a system about that. So we posted something about that. We posted things about training at MVLC, different things, and the staff can contribute to that as well. So Helen and I have been working on that. And let's see. So Tori did complete her hours. Well, not all of her hours. She completed the majority of her hours. We, I can't remember how much it was exactly. I think it was $1,250 that ended up coming out to. So she really did push at the end to get it done. She helped us with our inventory project. She found a lot of mistakes that in the stacks that Helen fixed for us. So it was really helpful. She helped with shelving. Yeah, she really, at the end, she really did do a very good job. So we cut her a check for that, and then Declan, I got him the $50 gift certificate to Kimball's, and he was very happy with that.
Nice.
I think Andy also got him some sort of video game gift card. He probably liked that more. Let's see. And speaking of Tori, so I know we weren't sure what we were going to do with the scholarship. I did have a student contact me. He was interested in doing it. So I don't know, do we want to continue with that, or do we want to wait the year? Or
How is it publicized?
It's publicized on the website, and we also put it on Facebook.
We typically send it to the guidance counselors for.
Yeah, we send it to the school.
I contacted all the English teachers last year at the high school, and I gave them all the information, and I left it up to them to decide whether or not they wanted to.
It was in the scholarship newsletter that the
Okay,
guidance department.
so the guidance counselors generally are the ones who are looking at the scholarship stuff, and not so much the English teachers.
I think I sent it to the superintendent, and he promised to send it to the principals, and then the principals were supposed to send it to the guidance counselors.
But let me ask.
Or he did make it in the. I know he made it into the scholarship
Okay,
list last year
okay.
because I was monitoring that.
Because we have a new librarian at the high school, and there are a number of people who are, I call them library geeks, but they're, who help in the library, and Tori was one of those people.
Mhm.
Okay, so that would have made some sense. And I know that there's a TA in the library this year. So I don't think that scholarship has not been widely publicized at school. I would have known about it.
I mean, last year we had 5 candidates, 4
Mhm.
or 5,
5,
which was, I thought,
Yeah, normally we only have one.
yeah, so.
Yeah,
So-
and there was one who could not make that interview.
That's right, we
Yeah.
poured live. and then
I
one
don't think
that
we have
was,
ever had, and we had applicants that didn't even go to Littleton, which was great. They lived in Littleton, but
they go to
they went to
different
different
schools.
schools.
Lawrence Academy or.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, one of our guidance counselors is away because her daughter's getting married. But I thought maybe if I could get some information on that and talk to them about it.
Well, I think there was a question of whether or not we were going to even do it
Okay.
this year, so that's what I was asking all of you. Do you still want to do it? Do you want to wait a year?
What does the staff want?
So if they show up, if the person shows up, it's great.
Yeah.
But when they don't show up, it creates an issue. So it's just finding the right candidate.
That's my biggest frustration with this scholarship, is that there are no clear expectations made in the beginning to the applicant as to when they should show up. If I don't know, you want to treat it like a job, then this is your weekly hours and you're expected to come to the library at this time. To just disappear for a couple of months and then try to show up at the end and make up all those hours, it's just.
That was rare.
Yeah, we did have another scholarship recipient who did the same thing. It's just we just had so many great candidates last year who really wanted it, and I just kept thinking about them and thinking they would have been here. They would have been in the library helping you out. So that's just the frustration. If we can have set expectations, then we can avoid that issue. And then I would be happy to, spend time looking for an applicant if that is what the staff needs.
I mean, we always need volunteers.
So tightening
Whether or
up
not, if the student doesn't show up, then we always have the senior tax workers that come in. We have other people who just want to do it because they want to volunteer in the library. So we need someone to do something. It's not so much that the staff doesn't want the person. It's making sure that person shows up.
Is there, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, is there a better time of year? Let's say we picked somebody by the end of September, just for the sake of an argument, and they wanted to do all their hours and be done before Christmas, as opposed to somebody where you tell them, okay, we want you from the 1st of June until August. Okay, is there a better time?
I interject one thing. I think the busiest time of the year for us is the summer, and if it maybe was a scholarship that was filled out, but it was more towards a summer learning type job, and you receive the stipend at the end of the summer reading period, because then it really confines it to that time frame. And that's the time frame when we really need the shelving help upstairs, this and that. And it puts a body in there. You say to them, it's 3 mornings a week, and it's during the summer reading period. It has a beginning and an end, and it kind of ropes in that loosey-goosey of you have a year to complete this, and it also is the time when it's the busiest.
I would agree.
So would that mean, if you did something like that, would it be better to offer it to a junior rather than a senior? Because that's a big problem with the seniors, is that it's their last year of high school and they have so much going on and they have to prepare for college, so they can't necessarily be there during the summer. Because.
That's true.
So maybe it should be.
That was something we also faced with Tori, was she had to visit colleges and go to orientation, and she had other things that she was involved in.
So-
maybe a rising senior.
So a rising senior.
So what I'm hearing is you think you have a need or use for a volunteer.
Yeah.
But there's no point in rushing and picking someone now. We could theoretically even wait till December, January and pick someone.
Yeah.
As long as we gave them reasonable expectations on the hours, you know.
I
And
think
you
you might
could,
get a better turnout when it's approached, when kids start looking, what am I gonna do this summer? You've got a lot more kids that are looking for some type of local employment that, you know,
And you could say it starts on the last day of school.
yeah, and it's
You know,
they
it is.
receive it when they, you know, whatever, for their college.
Right.
so,
That would be the sticky
And
wicket.
it's, you know, if you're offering 150 hours, I would think that between June and August, between June and New
well, you're
Year.
basically telling them it's their summer job.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of, seems to
So-
me there's plenty of time to finish that if.
So, if you think you want the volunteer, do you want to take a shot at writing up what you want when? And
Sure.
And it sounds like we have no rush to,
If we're looking at a rising senior, so it's somebody who's a junior this year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
we could do it as either, you know, a rising, we could do it as a junior or a graduating senior, right? You could do either one, you just,
I kind of like the thought of it being a junior.
I do too. Because then they have something definite to put on their college applications in the fall.
They do.
I don't mind doing that, I just, if we're gonna do it, I don't really feel like we should.
I think we've
eliminate
always
that.
offered it to a senior, and now they just
I
cut that
think
off.
we kind
Yeah.
of cutting
Yeah,
out,
just don't.
cutting off that 1 year,
Yeah.
right, so.
Leave it open to both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think leaving it open to both is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, and maybe we change the way it's managed more so that it's under your purview rather than ours, right?
Okay.
So you can figure out, you know,
Sounds good.
how to manage the one. Okay.
Okay, financially, we're on track. Helen's been keeping a great spreadsheet. I wish I brought it with me to show you. But we broke it down by quarters this time so that we know we're not trying to spend more money at the end or we're running out of money at the end, so we're on track. So financially, we're doing well. And, yeah, that's basically it. And I'll send you my report or email.
We've spent 16% of the budget.
Yeah.
When are we starting the budget process? Did we know that?
So I actually have a meeting with the new finance director, Cheryl, and I think it's next week, or maybe the week after that. We set up an appointment so that I can meet with her and talk to her about the building project. And also, so because she's new, it's all kind of, but yeah, it's coming up. It's
Is it
coming
gonna
up.
be at our October meeting or a November meeting?
Excuse me?
We're likely to be doing budgeting in November meeting?
Probably November, yeah. Yeah.
That works better.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Sam?
Nope.
Okay, old business, donor thank you phone calls. So there were, I volunteered, I guess, to call the people that made pledges this past month, which I have done half of. The one problem is the little green light doesn't always have people's phone numbers in it, so it makes it a little hard to contact them. I'd be more than willing to hand off the phone calls to anyone else that would like to call and thank people for the month of September. To give people an idea of the number of donors, it's not, you're not calling hundreds of people, it's handfuls of people. It's whoever donated, whoever filled out a new pledge card that month. It's not even, and you just call and say thank you for your donation and remind them about the vote and ask them if they have any questions about the library project. And give them Sam's number.
I'm curious, if they don't answer the phone, do you leave us all on their voicemail, or do you just call back and wait?
I leave a message.
Okay.
And then I count that as a call. So, I will continue to do it unless someone else will volunteer, but.
Thanks, Mark.
I get pestered about it when I don't do it, so. I'm not calling you, though.
No, you're not.
Okay, new business, warrant article.
It's going to the bound council. So I did write up something, but I think Steve Venuti and Steve Moore felt it needed to go to council, so.
Was it just vetting the language?
Yeah, I think there's some stuff they have to add to it. So when I wrote up what I wrote up, I can pass it around. I basically based it on what other libraries that have gone through this process, what they wrote. So I basically changed out their name of our library. But we don't know how much money we're asking for yet, so that was, I wasn't able to add that.
Thank you, sir. So this is what we have to, once this gets finalized, this is what we're gonna vote on.
Something along those lines.
To be determined.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So that will be coming back soon. We'll try and meet towards the end of September.
Right.
Before October 3rd.
Yes. Any other business?
I think we should approve the minutes.
Yes.
We have to approve the minutes, and I have a change in the minutes. I wasn't here on the 25th. Under library project meeting, marketing, information, dissemination on page 3. Mike Lynn did not approach fundraising. Susan Harvey approached Mike Lynn.
Sorry about that. I thought that was
giving
very
him a
nice.
lot, yeah.
That was very nice of him. I'm like,
No, I approached him and he said, great, so we're good. Yeah. Otherwise, it looks pretty swell to me. And I apologize for missing.
Speaking of minutes, I did approach Liz about getting another senior tax worker. No takers.
Okay.
Really? No.
Apparently other departments have asked the same thing. She couldn't get anybody. That's like the one thing they don't want to do.
No, she's getting hit with that.
Huh. Okay.
too bad we can't have the scholarship recipient do our
How good is your steno? Yeah, that doesn't sound terribly attractive. I don't think we'll get a lot of people applying for that.
Oh, so someone should approve them. I wrote them, so I think I should.
So move to approve the minutes on, for Thursday, July 25th, 2019, as amended.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Jill 6 is still missing.
Maybe you need some tech help.
So we will have another meeting before the October 3rd that we'll schedule after the warrant
Okay.
comes out. Sam will be sending out dates to the info sessions, and then we'll figure out who's attending and talking.
Oh, I was gonna say, I will plan on being on Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday, the 9th.
And I can be there as well.
I can.
It's on my calendar.
Okay, good, then maybe I'll leave early
Oh, yeah.
if I have to.
That's a good one to be at.
And we only have to be there as long as they're discussing our
We're late,
project.
we're later in the, we're currently like 8:30 on the agenda.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Oh.
All right.
And I would be
So that's good
surprised.
to know then.
So, okay, if there's no other business,
Just only one little thing, was just to continue Sue's conversation about the gray boxes,
yeah.
okay? And the reason you were there was to try and find the donors that you were gonna see, to
Right.
see if they had donated anything
Right.
before.
Right.
Does anybody in this room happen to know anything that can help Sue?
we found things that helped.
We did find one thing, I talked
Sam had a
to,
bunch of folders, Susan had some folders.
yeah,
We've made a lot
Susan
of
Palmer
progress.
had some folders, so, I'm happy to share this with you.
So, we're going around.
Yeah.
Susan, I'm one of those people, I'm thinking Vin Cooper, Eunice Morrison, Gertrude Houghton, Mrs. Overgard.
Oh, gone.
But they have trustees for their foundations.
Oh, really?
So if you know
Yes.
people on the list that we aren't aware of,
Yeah.
send them to Susan.
Okay.
In that case, never mind.
Thank you for thinking of it though, David.
It's all right.
Anything else?
Anything else?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Oh, aye.
All right.
Okay, our next regular meeting will be October 3rd, 7 o'clock.